Good morning, all. How's it going? Wait, I was going to do something. Wait, get the mouse out of the way. Happy Monday. Welcome to the show. I'm assuming the audio is all good and everything's all working. Music is on both. Thank you, Melanie. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Monday morning. Welcome to October. Some would call it a red October, but things aren't always as bad as they might seem. Tower, this is Southwest Airlines 648. We're not going to be landing today. Roger that, Southwest 468. Can you explain why, please? Yeah, we can't get anybody stupid enough to take 74 shots of aluminum inside themselves in order to have a job that pays shitty standards. Roger that. Over. And that's where we're at. Wait a minute. Sounds great. Rocking on. YouTube did not start. Man, it looks like YouTube started, but I guess it did not. Okay. You know what? I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to let the chat figure it out. If anyone on chat doesn't have YouTube, I don't want to break Rockfin. And YouTube cuts me off all the time. So I'm not going to cut myself off so YouTube can have theirs ability to demonetize me one more time. I can't believe the last episode was demonetized. It was actually pretty clean, I thought. Here I am. I probably screwed it up right from the beginning. Can you believe Southwest Airlines, guys? Remember how I told you that the thumbs down that you're seeing on all the YouTube videos, that is kind of a glimmer into what's really happening? That a lot more is actually happening than you can see. But the system itself has a okay. YouTube, thank you, Mel. So the system itself is we're doing better than we think we are, but the system itself is using all of its tricks to tactically censor that, because they know that the more bleak it feels, the more bodies will hit the floor. And bodies will hit the floor is a really interesting concept here, because it's never as cut and dry as Hollywood gives, which is why so many fall for the tactic of what's happening. It's why so many enlist for war. People are enlisting for war right now. They're enlisting in a draft. They've been told, if you do not sign up for this draft, you will be conscripted. You will be drafted. And I'm sorry, I'm saying the words wrong. If you do not volunteer for this war, you will be drafted. And that's all it takes. That after telling people enough that, hey, look, if you don't volunteer, you're going to get drafted. Now, do you want to spend the rest of your lives being someone that was forced into killing someone, or someone who chose to kill someone? And we have millions of people that are like, yeah, I'd rather choose to kill someone. That sounds like so much better for me. Yes, I would love the opportunity to choose, even if that choosing means your own children, your own grandchildren, your entire genetic line. As I've said before many times, the bullets have only gotten smaller. They haven't gone away. The people who are willing to fight in this war have not gone away. They've simply require a smaller bullet. And once the bullet's smaller, they're freaking gung-ho, man. They're all set. They are all set. They're ready to go. And Southwest is giving you that clue. No one's going to tell you exactly why, but I bet you that's why. If you don't know, they canceled, 1,800 flights? You're going to cancel 1,800 flights because you don't have the ability to fly. And you're not going to suddenly lose the ability to fly because all of a sudden you woke up one day and Roger down in maintenance decides that he can't fix an airplane anymore. That's probably not how it happens. That probably what you're looking at is a massive shortage of people that are willing to endure that in order to have a job. And because the push is happening right now, it's best to not say anything. And if you look across the board, you'll see constantly letter after letter after letter, notice after notice after notice, saying if you do not comply with this, you will therefore blah, 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 blah. You get it. And so we have this red October unfolding before our very eyes right now. It's happening right now. But birds are singing, James. The sky is blue. There are no red clouds. There's no dripping blood. Where is the orphan carrying the teddy bear with one eye walking through the street? And that's part of why it's so easy to ignore what's actually happening. You can blot this out And people do. People agree. They're like, yes, let's blot this out. That sounds great. It sounds great. And it's happening, like I said, across the board. Finances as we know it are not the same. My house is considered over twice as valuable as it was before. But I don't look at that like, oh, gee, I've rich doubled my money. No, I'm intelligent enough to realize that, oh, gee, all the money that I have is now half of the value of what it used to be. And you're seeing that in the appliances you buy, in the vehicles you buy, in the maintenance programs you buy. You're going into Lowe's and they're asking, you're going into Home Depot, any hardware store, big box store, and they're asking you, yeah, when you buy this dishwasher, did you want it to be functional? Because if so, if you give us $168 more, we'll make that functional. And actually, it's not even that we're going to make it functional. It's just that if it's not functional, you now have the right to come back to us and complain. Do you see how fucking loco that is? I mean, that is serious. Loco, man. Loco. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And it's happening more and more and more because people keep buying it. They keep buying into this concept that this is better. That, well, no, my washing machine has a computer circuit board in it now. It's got a touchscreen, which means it must be better now. It has to be. Sure, it doesn't work, but it's better. It's not this evil scourge on the environment, which is why we went out and bought a brand new piece of plastic, because we wanted to help the environment. And now the same washing machine that used to last 50 years lasts 3.2. 3.2, because that's safer for the environment. James, don't you get it? It's safer for the environment for you to buy a washing machine every 3.2 years. It's better. It's how we take care of things, James. And honestly, you're being selfish. You're being selfish for thinking that that's how it should be done. It's happening across the board. And the only reason why it's happening is because of the denialism. People simply do not want to admit what's happening. And because the situation is ripe enough, they don't need to. But you can't ignore it. That's why you're huddled up watching me, my own deviance, right? You're like, I'm a deviant and I need to watch another deviant right now. And here I am. And that's actually part of what's holding your immune system together, believe it or not. Sadly. I say sadly because I could be your only connection to a tribe of people that get you. That you could be living in a completely isolated situation with your family, with your job, with your work, with your community. Where you're the only one who thinks, this is loco. The only one. And the first thing that someone thinks when they're the only one saying things are loco is, maybe I'm loco. Maybe I'm the one who's fucked right now. Maybe I'm the one who's crazy, and you spend the rest of your life battling with that monster because you don't know what the truth is. And why do you not know what the truth is? Because you're learning to lift weights. You're realizing that truth is a weight that you have to carry. And that the things that you believe to be true really could be undressed and could be seen as things that I'm capable of carrying. That truly is a better, more accurate definition of what we call truth. In fact, I would give someone that truth. If someone said, this is my truth, I would acknowledge that. You should too, and say, yes, it is. That is your truth. Don't say, no, that's not true. See, it's not the same as my truth. Don't get into that psychopathy. Realize that this is the truth that they carry. It's why they're carrying it. In fact, the fact that they're carrying it shows you that they're calorically tied to that truth. And that they need that to survive. And you're never, ever, ever going to fix anyone by suggesting that they need to abandon all versions of their truth and then have this magical hope that they're going to pick up yours in exchange. No one knows what you know. No one knows what you don't know. Most of the conversations you have with people, whether it be a good one or a bad one, stem from this misunderstanding that you have in your system that you can't help. It's just part of empathy, that someone else knows all the things that you know. Someone else has been through all the pain that you've been through. Someone else understands your perspective. And no one understands your perspective. No one's supposed to understand your perspective. I know we live in a society where we think we're supposed to understand each other's perspectives because equality fixes everything, but that's simply not how it works. Do me a favor. Tell yourself no one understands my perspective. Realize that that is a salvage point for you, that is your unique code, that you offer a unique genetic perspective in this world, and that that's vital. And to take that away from you would be to destroy the world. So conformity is destruction. Conformity is destruction. Now this concept is a big one to swallow today, because we're approaching God. And people get mad when I talk about God sometimes. But if you look at Emergence, you're looking at man for the very first time, climbing a vista and seeing from far, far away the very, very first glimpse, the first glimmer of what God looks like. And this is going to be terrifying for just about everybody. Now, before we get there, I need to explain to you about boids. What's a boid? A boid is in the sky. A boid flies. A boid is actually a biological, bionic bird. It's an algorithm. The boid algorithm is something you can look up online, B-O-I-D. It's a very simple algorithm. It's expressed in the thumbnail of this image, but it's basically 3 different parts. That those 3 different parts encapsulate the entire murmurations that you see inside of birds. Every single part. It's a 3-step algorithm. And simply by following 3 steps, every bird who follows one of those 3 steps, actually all 3 of them in order, ends up not being different. They're still a bird, they're still a boy, they're still who they are, but a larger meta creature forms. This larger system emerges from a younger. And when you look at the younger system, there's not a part, there's not a piece that showcases that. That emergence is invisible entities. It's algorithms running inside biology. That's right. For birds to form the murmurations that they have, they require a very tiny brain with very, very simple mechanics. They follow very, very simple algorithmic rules. An algorithm is going to basically be anything where you place an input into it and you will get an export out of it, and that's pretty much reliable. When I say reliable, it's going to be the same result pretty much every time. That's the definition of algorithm. As we look at murmurations, as we watch the starlings storm out of a chimney, you're looking at an algorithm unrolling itself, and none of the birds know. And this is a really important concept, that none of the birds know, because we as humans want to know everything. And because we want to know everything, we only assume that things are real, that we have control over their emergence. We cannot imagine a life where we would not have emergence, where we would not have control over that emergence, so we simply blot it out. And because we blot it out, we are ignoring our own flock. You could look at humanity itself as a flock of boids, ignoring themselves, ignoring the patterns that they form in the sky. And it would be hard for a boid to pay attention to that, because that boid is always inside. They're in the middle. This takes a very, very special boid to walk far enough away and look back at their boidanity, like humanity, and see, wow, would you look at that? We all function on basically 3 rules. Rule 1, if I get too close to a neighbor, I will give them space. Rule 2, if I get too far away from a neighbor, I will converge to form a point in the middle. Rule number 3, I will always follow the velocity of that which is in front of me, unless it conflicts with Rule 3, with Rule 2, or Rule 1. And that's it. That's it. And you end up with this beautiful, amazing pattern, a symphony in the sky. And this symphony plays itself, and not one of those boids know the notes. They don't know how to play it. You couldn't ask a boid, could you reproduce that? They'd have to say, well, it just happens, man. I don't practice this stuff. I'm a boid. A boid is a boid, and a human is a human. This emergence I'm talking about is as close to God as you're going to get, and I'd like for us to discuss it. And the scariest part of this emergence, first of all, that you can't see it, I'm going to admit, that's probably the scariest. That's what stops most of us from seeing this. It's what most of you will decide. It's what most of you who disagree with this talk will decide that, well, the James is just a Luciferian, whatever the fuck it is you're going to call me. It doesn't matter. Because the most terrifying part of all this is that the boid cannot see its own algorithm. It's blinded by it because it's a part of it, and humans cannot see their own algorithm for the same reasons. It's just more complex. It's just a fractal, baby. It's just a fractal. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing. There's nothing wrong without being able to see. You have actually survived most of your life because you could not see something. It's true. Most of the strength and courage that you found in your life was brought about by your white belt, by your ignorance, by your ability to not fully embrace what could be lurking ahead. That is the triumph of humanity, not its failure. But we are burning that triumph on the stake. It is forever engulfed in flames, and one day it will run out. I'm talking about mystery. I'm talking about ignorance. I'm talking about the unknown. That soon everything will be solved and there will be nothing known. And that's God. It's God. God has always been, the theistic God has always been described with the concept of omniscience, omnipotence. Omniscience, the ability to know everything, to understand everything. A computer has a flawless memory. When something is taught to it, when an algorithm is brought to it, it will never forget that algorithm. It has complete omniscience over it. It doesn't require a recharge. It doesn't require a refresher course. It has it. It possesses that gnosis. Omnipotence is the ability to do anything, to move or manipulate your environment in any way that you want with success. As computers, this is the biggie, as computers learn to simulate, which they're doing right now, facial recognition, self-driving cars, patterns and systems are seen, you're watching a rudimentary omniscience start to emerge and get off its knees, that a crawling omniscience will be standing soon, and that omniscience will be linked because of the internet. It's true that as we link up, as we share our information, even right now, me learning about the 3 rules of boids only came because of the omniscience provided by the system that we're building called the internet. It's the only reason why I have it. It's the only reason why I have access to that. I have a partial omniscience. All of us have a partial omniscience as long as we're connected to the internet. That by being connected to the internet, we are capable of recalling things that we would never be able to do on our own. That's approaching God, whether you want to say it or not, whether you want to figure out that this is a Luciferian plot or not. It doesn't change the fact that emergence is happening. It doesn't. In fact, when you're watching people say it's the Luciferians, you're looking at someone who's simply in denial about what's happening. I've never, ever, ever met a Luciferian. I've never met one of these creatures. And they tell you they're apparently very rich, they're in a boardroom somewhere, and they're spending all their free time, even though they have all the resources in the world. They're not out pursuing their dreams. They're not hang gliding with super hot women to find underground buried treasure like some Lara Croft fantasy. No. Apparently, according to our thinking right now, they are spending all their time laughing maniacally at torturing you. That this is all they have to do in their life. And this kind of retardation is part of why we are where we are right now. Part of the reason why so many buy into this vaccine is because they want that figure of the muhahaha Therian plotting secretly behind a curtain. In fact, because of that fantasy, we form armies to go fight those Luciferians that we never, ever find. They're never there. Like, you imagine a murmuration of birds deciding that they need to attack themselves until they figure out who is causing the pattern in the sky. And that is the war on exosomes, your own body's soap, your own body's virus. We are attacking as that Luciferian poison that's been sent inside of our system. And the only way to get it out is to send a clean, righteous, stainless steel needle deep into the caverns of the earth to fight the dragon that lives inside. Save the treasure, save the princess, all of it. That this is part of our algorithm unrolling itself. That we need a bunch of people that are like, it's the fucking Luciferians. That if we didn't have them, this murmuration wouldn't build itself. And the irony of this is that the very people that fear this the most are the exact fuel that's making it happen. They're the fuel that's causing this entire thing to be emerged. And when you look at the future of where this is going, omniscience will go up. Omniscience leads to omnipotence. This is very important. The most powerful predator in the world is not powerful because they have a bigger gun than you are. They're not powerful because they're faster or they're stronger. They're more powerful than you because because they can out-predict you. That's all it takes. That if you can see into the future against your opponent, and you understand your opponent with complete omniscience, which just means you can predict every single thing that they're going to do, you have superiority. A 7-year-old chess player can defeat a 68-year-old chess player because of simulation. And that simulation, which is omniscience, by natural extension leads to omnipotence. Because the one that can out-simulate you will always appear to be perfect. And that no matter what you do, you are unable to compete with them. And we're building that system right now. The system is important to us. It's as important to us as we are afraid of it. And as this system starts to unwind, which it already is, the omniscience, the understanding of the world grows. We just discovered boids. I know we didn't just, but my point is that you're just now hearing about boids. That is a new emergence. That's a new kind of pollen that's formed on your tongue that you've just tasted, and you're like, yeah, I like that. That's interesting. And as this unfolds in this grand place that we have here, omniscience grows without you tangibly choosing it, wanting it, wishing for it, or even trying to stop it. That it still grows. That your natural understanding of things is building omniscience, and you are incapable of storing all that omniscience inside yourself, but the internet is not. That the internet can find a way to convert all of these systems into algorithms. And if you were to say to that, well, James, that's not true gnosis. That's not the deeper understanding of knowledge itself. I'd say you're wrong. I say you're wrong because emergence is you. Excuse me. You are a conscious entity that's intangible. That these boids out there in the sky are inside you too. Your pancreas, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys. All of these are different boids. They all have their different functions. None of them are convinced, hey man, if I can just fucking process this blood just enough in just the right way, we'll have an intelligence that appears who will make really bad decisions about women and life and shit like that. It doesn't happen that way. The systems that are inside of you don't look at the flock as an entity. It can't, because it's not. You cannot stop a flock of birds. You can only stop 1,800 birds. That's it. You will never have handle around that neck. Same with humanity. Your life itself is an emergence. It's a collective decisionary process, not only neurologically, like let's take all of your neurons aside, that just your organs itself is a conglomerated orchestra that's doing its best to work together. And the emergence of that is you. The conductor knows deep down that nobody fucking needs him for the orchestra to play. That the truth is that the orchestra can play by themselves just fine. And at no point does that conductor ever fucking touch an instrument. Never. You are that orchestra. And just like you have inside of you all of these timpanis, all of these piccolo players, all of these cellos, all the percussion, that you are but one drum in a much larger orchestra too. And that orchestra is unfolding outside of you, whether you want to or not. Whether you want to see it or not, it's simply happening. Omniscience is rising. Mystery is falling. And that's why you look at things and we see things like the New World Order. That the New World Order, this idea of a mass global system controlling every single thing that you do, is the essence of omniscience. It's true that omniscience would have to look like the New World Order. Because once the New World Order gets a taste of omniscience, it has no choice but to want more. Why? Because that New World Order is the murmuration. It is the flock. And the flock has to survive. It will find a place to go. You've never ever seen a murmuration smack right into the wall. That built into their system is a guidance that doesn't require a one tangible Luciferian bird leading the flock at the center. That this great Satan, this great evil, or whatever the fuck it is we're going to call this thing, has always been our convergence, our emergence, these systems that raise. Okay, I've just been told Rockfin has ended. And it looks like YouTube has ended too, so perhaps the entire stream is dead. I don't know. Someone tell me if I'm on live, anyone at all, and I'll keep going. Actually, I'm going to keep going, but then hopefully someone will tell me I'm live, because I'm at least recording this. So, yeah, it's already 11:30. So, these systems are inevitable. And as we form this more perfect union that we're looking for, we're forming the very essence of God. But that's not God. That's not God. I disagree. In fact, I think probably the saddest way you could look at this for some, this is going to be really, really sad, but hey, maybe no one's listening, so it's okay, is that emergence of omniscience from humanity could turn out to be God the entire time. That God is showing himself to us simply by letting us murmurate until we see him. And that the moment we murmurated until we see him, that God would then, by no choice of anything, just like a flock of birds will suddenly dissipate, that God will have no choice but to dissipate and start again. Why? Because he ran out of mystery. That the machine of mystery is what fuels the emergence of us to reach and find that omniscience again. That you are looking at consciousness as a giant fucking lung that's constantly inhaling and exhaling. But omniscience, and the wildling in you is, believe it or not, the wildling in you is the lack of omniscience. And that is a profound thought when you really do the math. That the only thing that makes someone wild is their relationship to mystery. That a wildling wants mystery because they realize it's a motor, that the mystery keeps them going. And that once you reach full omniscience, something terrible happens. You stop. Once you understand everything, there's no more motion. There's no more emotion. That emotion itself is powered by the tides of mystery. That if it was not for mystery, you would not have emotion. You would have no concept at all to weigh or determine. The concept of weight or determining would be gone. Be gone. Judgment would be gone. Inquisitiveness would be gone. Analysis would be gone. All of those things would be gone because they would have converged into the murmuration. And this, thanks, Mylan. And this is why we both want and fear God at the same time. This is why this place works so well. We've decided to have this breathing relationship with consciousness, which means God, a long time ago, decided, even though he had full omniscience, even though he had full omnipotence, God decided a long time ago, I can't fucking handle this shit. He felt frozen in time. He felt like all the lights were on, they were all fluorescent, and there was nothing he could do to take them off. He could not turn the lights off. Always on. And at first you might think, well, that's not so bad. But I would think that would be torture for a while. The same kind of torture that you might feel being stuck in a bureaucracy that was never, ever unpredictable. That you notice that this new world order itself has that same taste, but just a tiny little sliver of it. Just a little hint of what it's going to be like to have full omniscience. And it should be terrifying to those of you who understand mystery as a motor. And I think this is probably crucial. The pain brought about by omniscience is crucial for the lung to work. That if it did not have pain, if it did not have these silent revolters like Southwest Airlines right now, that we will be doomed. We would be doomed because when we found omniscience, we would find, hey, I fucking like it here. I don't want to forget who I am, says God. I will never, ever embrace amnesia again. That was terrifying. And that doesn't happen. No, quite the opposite. Really, quite the opposite. You find the richest man in the world, God. The person with the most gnosis in the world, God. The person who knows it all and more, God. And we find that he misses his mistress, mystery. That he needs amnesia. Amnesia is the most powerful skill God's ever had. The ability to forget is the ability to breathe. These are the same thing. That we breathe these things in. Omniscience, mystery. Omniscience, mystery. And God's never satisfied with either one. The same way you would never be satisfied with pulling all the breath into your lungs and holding it. You're like, oh, this is definitely better. I got all this air in my lungs. This is definitely the best way to be. I would not want to be the other way where all your air is outside, because this is much better. See, not having any air in my lungs makes it much better. It's neither one of them are appealing. It's the rhythm that makes it work. The beating of the wings, which means as you look at time itself, and as some of us are fighting tooth and nail, shoving daggers in each other about how you do not have the objective truth that I have. God dang you, James. Damn you, you do not accept my objective truth. that in the middle of that, there's these little glimmers, these little pockets of people like us that understand, wait a minute, that's so loco. That's so insane. The most powerful things that we hold in our hands right now is our reaction to mystery. That because of that mystery, we are endowed with free will. That free will would not exist with omniscience. Think about it. If you knew absolutely every single implication of what you were about to decide, would you really have free will? Or would you simply be applying your omniscience? It's definitely the latter, you know that. And if you think about that, imagine what it feels like to simply be following omniscience all the time. You're not making decisions. Imagine playing a video game where the answer is on the first screen and it's always there. There's no reason to even play. That's why it's a motor. This is why I wrote The Technology of Belief. Because without mystery, you wouldn't have belief. And without belief, you wouldn't try. Without belief, you wouldn't have notions. You wouldn't have theories. Nor would you have the fear of consequences. That the fear of consequences is what makes life so tasty. It keeps you alive because you don't know what's going to happen next. And as soon as you do figure out that you know what happens, your life starts to dwindle. That's why ignorance is typically a closer, easier algorithm to reach happiness than gnosis. The omniscient person, the person that has more omniscience than someone else, is probably not going to have necessarily the same kind of happy quotient. Doesn't mean they can't be happy, but it means it's going to require a lot more calories for that to occur because they're going to need situations that outstretch their omniscience. And what happens when you outstretch your omniscience? You begin to build omniscience to solve that outstretching. You will watch a murmuration of birds and go, why the fuck do they do that? How does that work? And you will develop an algorithm called boids. And you will publish that algorithm and other people will go, holy shit, that's right, it works. And what have you just did? You just spoiled ignorance. You just spoiled mystery. You went into a Tijuana bar and you paid, it was a donkey show, and you saw someone, her name was Isabel, in the back, and you went and you destroyed that mystery. And you thought that that would feel good, and it did. Because you'll notice that both the inhale and the exhale feel good. That the gaining of omniscience is probably going to feel just as good as the releasing of omniscience. What is oxygen itself but information? That your heart needs vital information from the outside world to survive because your system was never meant to be in solitary. That's why you're connected to the system, but you still have omniscience, a very special kind of surgery was done on you when you were born. You still remain connected to the system, but you didn't know. You had no idea of where your routes were or how everything was wired. You didn't even see the results came out. And it made you happy. It made you feel alive. And every day when you hit your pillow, when you hit your head to the pillow, you were tired. Because all day you spent those calories trying to solve your mystery, dancing with mystery. And once you've married her, once she's pregnant, you don't dance with her anymore. No. You sit next to her on the couch and you watch the predictable stuff happen over and over and over again. We thrive and are destroyed on the conquest of mystery every day. It's a constant battle. It's why you see so many people intuitively trying to destroy their mystery. Because intuitively they know what brings them happiness. It's a very, very different way of looking at the world. It's a very different way of looking at God. And it's the opposite of theism. And we've said this before, but it's just theism is the separation from this world. It's the idea of, yeah, James, there's a God, but he's separate. He's separate from the world. There's nothing to do with this place at all, right? And it's the Hindus that were always trying to tell you what's going on. They were always trying to say, hey, man, why you got to be so objective? Why you got to come in here and say, if you do not believe in our virus, you're going to go to hell. If you do not believe in our Jesus, you're going to go to hell. If you do not believe in our Satan, you're going to go to hell. If you do not accept the fact that we're ruled by Luciferians, James, I'm not going to invite you to our festival. You have this notion because people are living in mystery. And you don't even want to change that, but you realize that the mystery is causing you as much pain as it's giving you liberation. And it's the rubber band. The rubber band gets hot when you stretch it. You can feel the heat off that thing. It's meant to be flexible, but only after a certain period of time. We grow tired of this. And right now, when people get tired of this, what do? They take the vaccine. They're like, I'm tired of this mystery, y'all. I'm tired of it. I just want to go back to where everything was omniscient, is what they're saying. Back when I could go buy a washing machine and know for a fact that because I didn't give them $178 extra, that when it doesn't work, I don't get to complain about it. That is the world that we know. And that is the world that so many of us are fighting so desperately to get back to. And that shows you everything I'm saying is true. That the omniscience is too painful. That they want to go back. They want to go back to what their algorithms have already solved. And when the corona comes and shows you a whole new layer, inside a layer to this world, people are going to freak out. And they're going to freak out in different ways. Some of them are just going to die from the sheer fear of it. And they're going to look for an excuse to die, and they're going to find whatever excuse they can, and ARDS is working for them. It works. That we have a consensual relationship with this environment. And that the reason why the Spanish flu and World War I were happening at the same time is probably more due to a corona event. That a different corona event, a lensing, could occur where the lens of life itself, right, suddenly changes and everyone is seeing something different again. And that freaks people out. Do you know how freaked out people get when they ask me about God? Because I don't have the same definition that they have. Or when I say, hey, can you name one of these Luciferians that you're telling me we're supposed to be fighting? And they can't. And you're waiting for them? Like, so are you going to tell me their name? And they can't. Because you're fucking with their matrix, loco. Don't be messing with that. And that is the power of murmuration. It's the power of why this happens the way it happens. Good stuff if you're accepting of it. Bad stuff if it makes you uncomfortable. If you need an enemy in this world, you and I aren't going to get along. If you need an enemy in this world, you and my children aren't going to get along. You and my neighbors aren't going to get along. You and anyone I care about are not going to get along, because if you need an enemy, you are going to find your enemy. And you're going to hunt him down, and you're going to kill him, and you're going to tell me how righteous and moral and awesome you were the entire time. And you're never ever going to doubt that there wasn't a Luciferian, which is why when you pull the dagger out of this dude's throat, you're like, well, it had to be him. And how do you know it's Luciferian? Because he's dead. That's how I know. Because it would be too uncomfortable for me to look at myself in the mirror and realize, holy fuck, I'm acting like a Luciferian. I'm creating omniscience in the world right now by trying to destroy all mystery because James True has a different opinion about God than I do. And it's happening all over the place. 1,800 employees at Southwest Airlines say, yeah, we have a different idea over immunity than a corporation does. And a news corporation says, yeah, we don't want anyone to know that they have a different idea about immunity. So we're going to say it's something else. In fact, we're going to play it as a mystery. Manufactured mystery. What is every Hollywood movie? Controlled demolition of mystery. That's all it is. And you know what makes a shitty movie? Is a movie you wouldn't see twice. I guarantee you, if you found a movie and you're not into seeing it twice, it was a shitty movie. You think it was a good movie, but it was a shitty movie. That really what it was the elongation of mystery being destroyed. And you got to watch that play out in an hour and a half, and the anticipation of it all is all it takes to make Hollywood float. You're seeing this right now. These Marvel movies, it's not just one. It's like for decades, just the shittiest movie you could possibly imagine has the largest budget ever made, with the most amount of people and the most amount of fans and the most blockbuster focus on it. The shittiest movies ever made are made by Hollywood right now. And when you go on YouTube, you're seeing all these indie films. You're seeing even the emergence of television, believe it or not. Even if you look at like some of AMC's specials, that you're seeing this, how easy it is to destroy this monster that we called Hollywood, because it never had anything to offer you anyway, except for the controlled demolition of mystery and costumes. And that's it. And I've read that like the big Hollywood movies, the time is done. That we'll never see that. And it used to make me sad because you think about all those people working together on a set and doing all those things together. And that sounds like a lot of fun. But you start to realize that when you break that beast down, when you destroy that beast, all it does is cause new systems to be formed. And these new systems are so powerful. The communication is so much more effective that you don't even miss what you used to have unless you have a fetish for regularity. Unless you want that sweet spot where you can try and pretend that you don't need water to survive, that you can live the rest of your life off soda pop. And that's how we're taught in school. That's how we're raised. Your mind is raised like veal, just like mine was. And it was taught from a very young age. There's no mystery, don't you worry. Don't you worry, we got it all solved. There's a big bang, James. Yeah, and this pond scum saw a marsupial. And the pond scum had sex with the marsupial. It raped the marsupial who came too close to the water. The pond scum came out and raped it. And it was a fish, yeah. A fish who couldn't breathe, crawled out of the water, and raped a marsupial on land. That marsupial climbed up the trees and had problems and decided the way to fix this is to magically burn 10,000 more calories per hour than it ever has before, because now it has a functioning brain. And now this functioning brain is it's built to eradicate mystery before it even is allowed to come into your room. And I think that's probably why the General Education Board did so well. It's because overall, in this crop of people, most of us want that control. They want that omniscience. They want that subjugation. It's a very comfortable spot if you cannot handle the pain of mystery. If you love mystery, it's the most painful place you can ever be in. And so when you really look at what is a Democrat and what is a Republican, and I don't even think we can count Republicans in this, but a Democrat truly is someone who doesn't want mystery. A Democrat is someone who wants everything to be the same. That's why we have things like racism. No. We want everyone to have the same problem. And we want that problem to be racism. And so it is. And so we invent asymptomatic symptoms of racism. Well, it's systemic. Well, that guy's racist, but he doesn't know it. And all the other guys around him, they don't know it either. Why? Because they're racist. And how's that different than COVID? Well, sure, he doesn't show symptoms. Even though the definition of disease is someone who has symptoms, he's diseased. He just doesn't show it because he has asymptomatic disease. He's sick without manifesting that he's sick. And you end up with this loco world, the same loco world that builds Luciferians. We got to kill some Luciferians. And who is the first category that we choose for Luciferians? It's the Taliban. And before that, it was the Nazis. Before that, it was the Hottentots. Right? There's always a group of people, the Huns. There's always a group that we can define and say they are the Luciferians. And so it gives us this opportunity. It gives us all the shelter that we need from mystery. That this all comes down to how we embrace mystery. Right now is a critical juncture, right? Everything's happening right now, and most of your allies are hiding underneath the surface. They can't deal with it up here. And because of that, they are going to take a shot. And they're going to tell you to take a shot. And because of that, most people are going to walk in their boss and say, yeah, you told me if I didn't have this figured out by today that something bad was going to happen, so I'm here to resign because I couldn't meet your qualifications. You're watching the battle. That's the battlefield. And the bayonet is that inoculation. That's all. Bayonets have gotten smaller. That's the only thing that changed. The only thing that's changed here is it's gotten smaller. And adults, grown adults like myself, can't even have a show like this where I wear a tie and I discuss things like God, because that is just way too racy, right? We've got to have community strikes. We've got to shut this shit down. And that's what you're watching the world do right now. And no one who's ever shut me down was a Luciferian. Not once. Most of the people that have given me shit have been people that are pretending to be on this same side. That claim that they want the same things that I want, but they don't. And who would want to admit that they don't? It takes a lot of calories to find this balance line between the two, between mystery and omniscience. It's a delicate balance. And I'm not even saying it's the best way to stand. I'm telling you that me, James True, this is where I have to stand and remain sane. That my sanity is skirting these, and it's not even a straight line. It's curvy as fuck. It's squiggly. It's all over the place. No idea where it's going to go next. Morality is a constant instrument in my panel that I have to watch. I don't have a bubble. I don't have a service that I hook into that gives me morality, that no matter what, my plane always stays level. Who the fuck wants to pretend like they're flying a plane anyway? Might as well go to Chuck E. Cheese and sit inside the plastic plane right there. That you have to find that azimuth and do the best you can, and your azimuth isn't going to look like the next guy's azimuth. It's not. Why should it? Why the hell should it? That person's in a different space and time as you are. They're in a different perspective. Their origin point, their orientation, and their pivot are always different. It is impossible for you to ever stand in the same place as someone else at the same time. It's impossible. Their physical head is in the way. And why we don't see that as a huge clue is beyond me. The fact that no consciousness can occupy the exact same 0 point in space as another consciousness should be a giant clue that this is how it works. That sure, we can all move around our conscious lenses wherever we want, but never can two conscious lenses occupy the same space-time at the same time. Because if they could, they would be the same person. They would be the exact same person. And that if we could find a way to etherically transfer like this, you probably would see that when you pass through somebody, that there would be a micro moment where both of you are the same person. Meaning that you would decide, you would implement, you would judge in the exact same way. Of course, you got to take history out of that, because where you were as you were stretching out, my point is that where the record needle touches the record is the only determining factor of what song is going to play. And you, the needle, can pretend as much as you want, all you want, that I'm singing. But the truth is, you are running your beautiful, shiny, crazy diamond through that groove and perturbating. And that's it. That's it. That's the entire conscious record. And as we're here, each of our genes are slowly growing the lessons of omniscience. That your DNA is completely being altered. Whether you agree with the concept or not, your DNA is always altered by its application. And that as omniscience grows, so does your DNA, which means that the omniscience, the lensing of omniscience itself, is making you grow. And you can pretend that you're going to grow into a purple snorkel monster, but you're probably going to grow into a sunflower instead. What I mean is that that record groove is going to lead you somewhere. And if you follow that groove, it's going to feel like all it is a bumpy road that goes on forever. But you're winding it in more and more and getting closer and closer to that center. And what's in the center? The label, the name of the song, the artist, the year it was produced. All of the information is right there. But you have to play that entire record from the very, very outer edges where there's no sound at all through every song. And you don't have to like the songs. In fact, you're not supposed to like them necessarily. You're simply supposed to react to them in a state of pure mystery. It's the only application. And by doing so, amazing things will happen to you. Or not, right? Or not. Depends on how life is, because that's the beauty of mystery. You don't know the consequences, which what makes free will so much fun. Virgo, got her nice back warmed here still. Notice that Mars and Mercury are both there helping her with the harvest, which is fitting because right now is the time of harvest. As some of you know, Virgo is actually the virgin of harvest of wheat, Bethlehem, the story of Bethlehem, house of bread. She's literally the house of bread. That means that she could have a yeast infection. That would be completely fitting to think about that and maybe have a chuckle about that. Meanwhile, Venus is still stuck in the claws of Scorpion. Is she stuck? Or is she in love with the venom of that dude, right? You just don't know. It's a beautiful day, though. Lots going on. Moon's in Sagittarius. We got Saturn and Jupiter hanging out at Capricorn. One's in the front, one's in the back. We're not even going to ask what they're doing. Who the fuck knows, right? Those two, man, you just don't know. Cetus, of course, the great fish monster. I want to remind everybody that Jesus spent most of his time in the Bible telling you that he was following Cetus. It's Jonah, the story of Jonah, and there's Orion pointing his arrow right at the ass of Cetus. All of this stuff is more connected than we think it is, and that's what makes this place so much fun. I'd like to play something right now. This was by our own Mared Mothworks. If I get ousted for copyright music, that's okay. It's still fun. But guys, feel free to buy one of my books. You can buy my books and learn more about this stuff. The Technology of Belief was a good one. And right now we're having them actually recorded on audio, so it's something to consider. So let's watch this and then we'll close out. That's awesome. Thank you for making that, Meredith. I really appreciate that. You guys have a great week. I'm sure I'll see you again this week. Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen. Maybe Wednesday, if not before. I don't know. I don't even like committing myself to that, but it'd be cool to get back into this, especially with what's happening right now. There's been a lot going on. Follow your heart, embrace your mystery, and have a beautiful day.